there, and welcome back to the channel. So, over the past few weeks, I've become completely consumed with the idea of having a B-Bender Telecaster. This kind of desire goes back a ways because I guess it was in the early 90s when I was like early 20s. I actually didn't stumble into it. A friend of ours named Ron Gaddy introduced us to the Byrds. Like, you know, I'd heard a couple singles here and there, but he had like the whole box set. And he knew a lot about Clarence White and stuff like that. So I immediately, you know, heard what Clarence White was doing on guitar and really connected with the Sweetheart of the Rodeo, Untitled 1, I believe it's called. And I remember, I'm not sure which albums Clarence White played on because I wasn't thinking about it specifically the last time I Byrds obsessed, but I remember loving the Notorious Byrd Brothers, and I know he played on that one, and on the Easy Rider soundtrack. There's a couple tunes on there that are just gorgeous, and I know he was doing his Bender thing. So anyway, I got more and more into it. I got more and more into the idea of like that Bakersfield sound, like adding in some of that country picking tone, especially the bending part. You know, like I play rock, but after getting into Stratocasters, I've been heavily influenced by blues guitar, which I'd never done before. Never studied it and learned how to play any of it. And so now I'm feeling a similar tug towards the country picking thing, and specifically the B-Bender. I don't know how far I would take the country picking, but I do want to learn how to incorporate the B-Bender into what I'm doing. Because, you know, bands as diverse as like Metallica and, you know, Jimmy Page, 10 Years Gone. There's another song, I think All My Love on the last Into the Outdoor has, yeah, I believe, I could be wrong about that, could be a lap or pedal steel, but I believe he does it on that tune. So it's been incorporated into creative, you know, it's been creatively incorporated into rock music that wasn't specifically, you know, country or flat picking or, you know, just like cosmic cowboy music, which I love, and I want to get some of that tone into my stuff, you know, without it fully taking over what I'm doing, because I'm not accomplished enough. I don't play like that, but I would like to add some of that flavor into the next record. And after building the Stratocaster and having such an interesting experience, I wouldn't say it was always fun because there was a lot of challenges that like really left me exhausted. But I've been wanting to build a similar Telecaster. Because I really love the Telecaster shape, and I love my Super Tele here, this Dallas Schecter Telecaster. But this is more like for me, this has become more of like a Les Paul replacement, because I have a Les Paul Custom and I'm kind of afraid to play out, even take anywhere, because I want to smash the headstock. So I'm back to my Telecaster, my Schecter Tele, because it really does that kind of Les Paul thing. This is what Pete Townsend used to replace his Les Pauls, because they were heavy. And not that this is super light, but lighter than a Les Paul. But it's not really a real Telecaster. So I've been wanting to build a real Telecaster using Lawler pickups, because that's my favorite. These freaking blonde pickups. This is the Special Bridge. Just blows my mind on a daily basis. So if I built a Telecaster, I was wanting to use like Ashwood. That's what they originally used. Blackguard. Lawler pickups, whatever kind they're offering, I believe in them. A Fender roasted maple neck, but I want a maple fretboard. I've seen those going for like $350 on Reverb. So it's like a vintage look with some modern accoutrements. You know, like I typically dig these modern tuners. They just seem to feel sturdy, and I just like the way they look. I don't have to have the biggest frets in the world, but I do like these medium, I guess they're medium jumbo type frets they put on these newer necks. You know, instead of like the pencil thin original ones. So that's kind of some modern mixed with vintage. On a Strat, I prefer typically, although I'd like to try a 2.1 sometime just to have it for that Jeff Beck flutter. But overall, I really like the sound of the 6-screw, you know, the vintage trim. So I would do the 3-barrel on a Telecaster. I like that original thing. But I don't have to have it all be perfectly vintage. You know, the neck can be modern, the tuners could be modern, that kind of thing. But I just didn't know which bender to put on it. You know, like I've been reading about benders and trying to decide which one and which path to take. So here's a couple of paths, and hopefully the bender people out there that might happen to see this video, or any of my helpful friends of the channel, subscribers that contribute information about recording and things like that, might have had experience with it and could give me some advice. So that's what I'm basically looking for, is like advice and confirmation of like which path to take, because I've got a couple of ideas. So one would just be to, you know, wait in the weeds and score a Fender one, but just on the specs of the Fender one that was made in the 90s, I'm not totally crazy about the specs, although if I got the guitar I might fall in love with it and want it to be like that forever. But just on paper right now, like I said, I kind of had my mind set on building a basically traditional Telecaster. Could be some things that are modern, but you know what I'm saying. The original type of bridge could be compensated, but I want the barrel bridges, you know, as opposed to the individual saddles. I want low output pickups like what Lawler does. I'm going to use some kind of stain so the body will feel like natural satin as opposed to like super glossy. And so it'll have like the vibe of this guitar, but it'll be like the Telecaster version. And I'm going to do like a original kind of, you know, that kind of dairy blonde finish, the original kind of Telecaster finish that'll wear out fast because it'll be using wood tone stain, and not trying to, you know, cover the guitar and finish. So all that'll be awesome. I just don't know what bender to put on it. And so a couple of ideas I've had. One is I was looking around and I found on eBay, and it might be on Reverb too, and I might have seen it on Reverb, I can't remember, but it was called Sailor Guitars, I believe is how you pronounce it. And he was making outer bodies. They're not very finished, you know, it's just like cut the body and, I don't know, sand it down to like 4, I don't know, it just said it was basically not sanding them, you finish. But it was routed, and see, here's where I got confused. It was routed for the long throw bender, so on the back you got the long throw bender route. But it didn't have the route here. And I'd seen routes here that went along with the back route, because the strap goes here and you kind of control the bender with the strap button. Sorry for all the sniffing, it's freaking pollen. But his didn't have that route. So when I contacted him, he said, oh, it's the Hipshot product, which took me into the Gene Parsons world, where he, you know, he was a band member with Clarence White. It was the drummer on the later period Birds. I can't remember when the first drummer goes down or is off the out of the lineup, and Gene Parsons took over. But he, along with Clarence, invented that long pulse B-bender system like in the late 60s. And he's still, I don't know if he's still doing it or not, but he was installing those, you know, in his shop, I think in Mendocino. And so I looked that up, but now his actual bender, I guess he sold it to Hipshot. So instead of buying it through him, you buy it through Hipshot. And it has like this kind of, it looks good. It's like a black cover piece that goes here, sort of like the black guard on the front, you know. And so it has this black cover piece that goes on there. And then you have this kind of, you know, piece that sticks out of the back of the guitar that's on the unit that becomes the strap lock button that you then connect to do the bending, you know. So I thought about, you know, getting the Fender neck, putting it on that body, staining it, putting the Lawlers on. You know, it's already pre-routed. You buy the Hipshot Gene Parsons thing, and, you know, the bender, put it on, go from there. And I was picturing all the things I would have to do to make that work, and that could work quite well. The only thing is that the body the guy was offering is Alder, and I should probably add, and that doesn't matter to me, sound-wise or anything like that, I would be okay with it. I just was kind of trying to follow the original Telecaster style with using the ash body, and from what I understand, ash stains a little easier, and it has a nicer grain pattern. So like if you're looking at it, it's gonna, and these are translucent finishes, so you'll see the grain pattern. So I was leaning towards ash. His is an Alder. That might not stain quite as well, and I'm worried that I'll buy the Hipshot thing, and then I'll get into all kinds of troubleshooting, and I'll have to find somebody to help me, you know, fix it or whatever. Just because I'm a total noob, and I should add that I usually I put things together and all that kind of thing. I can do soldering and wiring and things like that. But as far as the woodwork goes, or like drilling holes, that kind of thing, I'm just completely useless and worthless. Like I just had so much trouble. Had trouble building this one because of not having a good drill, or like, you know, really any know-how. So I try to get the body, you know, as close. I can drill pick guards, but I don't like drilling for like bridges or anything inside, like internal ground wiring, anything, you know, like long bits or anything like that. I hate that. I don't even want to get into it. So I'll try to find the body as finished as possible, and maybe somebody to help me do all those bits. But I have enough, you know, patience to probably put the bender together. So then that would be one option, a DIY option. Then there's the idea of just sending a body or a completed guitar. Go ahead and build the guitar and then send it to Gene Parsons if he still does it. I can't tell from the website if that is still up and running since he sold it to Hipshot or not. So that would be the other option. The other one I looked up was Forrest Lee Jr., who's quite an impressive player. Like, you see all these amazing instructional videos he has, and like a couple DVDs he put out a few years ago. And just, he looks pretty active. Like that's like his thing. Like, the playing is excellent. The instruction, he just seems like a cool guy. And I've noticed on eBay, and maybe it's on Reverb, or maybe it was on his website, for like $700 or so. I think it was like $715, and another place I saw it for like $685. That could have been old. But on eBay, I think it's $715 with a or best offer. So maybe he's willing to do it as low as $685. But you send him the guitar, and he does his thing with his system. He has his own route, and his route ends with a top route here, so that it goes inside, and there's actually a nice looking piece that goes over the slot. So that's another option, is you build a guitar or send him a body, have him route it and install, his bender unit, the long throw bender unit, and he does like both a B and a G. And then, that could be, just pricing it and things like that. That could be similar in price to doing it yourself, because he does it for $715, and that $715, and that I'm assuming includes all the parts and everything. So whatever it would cost to build the guitar plus that, and in the Gene Parsons thing, you buy the Hipshot product, and that is like almost $600, and then you have to do it yourself. Could be quite simple, it's routed for it. Could just be a matter of installing everything, and quite straightforward. I don't know. I haven't seen the instructions, and I'm just such a noob at this whole bending thing that I don't even understand, the apparatus itself or the engineering behind it, how the physics of it, how it actually works. I haven't ever been around one or seen one. Love the glorious sound of it. So those are a few options. Those are the most expensive options and the most involved options. So then I was like, man, what could I do to just throw one on here real quick and just scratch the itch and see if I'm even into it, because there's a chance that once I try it, I won't really bond with the idea, or my music won't connect with bending, or just lose interest and it doesn't work out. Maybe you find that out before you commit all this time and effort to a guitar that may not be the thing. So I thought about some of the secondary units. Like Hipshot makes another unit that I just think overwhelms the guitar. Visually, it takes over this whole space here. So you can attach it here, and you have to have a hole in the bridge because you're going to take this saddle off, and then you're going to run the string through the hole, and then it's on this unit here, and it's kind of bolted down. And it just looks like, I would not knock on it or anything, and I'd like to try it, but it just looks like it kind of overwhelms the aesthetic of the guitar to the extreme, and not really that great looking, whereas I think the original bender, Forrest's bender, Gene Parsons' bender, that looks fantastic. I mean, it just looks cool, like the knob down here, and when you flip it over on Forrest, you can see the inside. Does a little flame arm that's really cool. So that I can live with. The Hipshot thing on the front, just, I don't know, it just killed the whole vibe of the guitar for me. Then I found another company that I could also consider that seemed like it was really nice, called the Glazer. But that bender, attached like this with like a chain, and that one seemed less appealing to me. I like the idea of doing it from the strap, just visually watching it the way. And if you do a G bender and a B bender, you have to do that belt attachment onto here with the little lever arm, just because there's no way to get both things attached. But I'm more focused on just the B bender. I don't think about the G bender as much. But the Glazer is another fine looking product, and a lot of people seem to prefer it, but I wasn't as attracted to it as the other ones just visually, but it could be the better way to go. But for easier methods to just get in and try it, there's the hip shot thing, like I said, but it kind of overwhelms the guitar in my mind. But I found another one. Oh, there's also this one called the McEwen sling or something like that, where it basically attaches on the back, and you have like a strap that attaches to that, and then it comes around and does something here. I forgot. That one didn't seem as appealing to me either. I think I'm either down to the Forrest Lee Jr. version or the Parsons version, but I have found one simple version that I could even incorporate on this guitar, which might get me where I want to go with bending, or at least give me the feel and the flavor, and then I can decide, do I want to pursue this any further? So I'm thinking that's kind of where I'm sitting right now. I found a guy, he'd been doing this since, like, I don't know, his videos date back to like 2009, so he's been around for a minute doing it. But it's a guy named Rolling, so it's called the Rolling Bender, and his last name is Rolling. And it seems like a pretty basic, straightforward thing, and it doesn't affect the look of the guitar too much. You just kind of have this like one metal piece going down like that. And it would work on this guitar and on this guitar. It seems quite simple. On this one, all you would do is just remove, looks like you remove the screw that goes in the bridge saddle, and then you remove the actual saddle. Then you take the little unit, replace it, put it in where the screw of the bridge plate was, and over, where the saddle would have been. String runs through that, and then attaches on the back of this unit, kind of like it would if it was on, the regular B bender with the little knob here. It kind of comes to a thing like that here on the unit, and then you manipulate it with your palm. So like, you do your bend and be like, you'd be like doing it back here with the palm, which could be annoying. That might not work as well as like this thing. But I'm thinking it would, for 165 bucks, it would give me the bender flavor and let me decide if I want to, pursue that or not. And it could just be a cool thing to add to this guitar, because it's already got trim. And then if I could just add like that bending element and learn some of these licks and riffs, could start incorporating into my music and make something interesting, to intrigue the ears and keep me excited and motivated about songwriting and recording and all that kind of thing. So I'm always searching for this kind of stuff. So I think what I'm going to do for now is I'm going to score a rolling bender and try it on either one of these guitars. I'm taking this one because this is my dog right now. I just play it all the time. And I would really like to just stay focused on this guitar. It's like another thing of building another guitar, getting all into that. It takes your mind away from songwriting, takes my mind away from forward progress with the songs that I have as far as recording them and making these videos and getting them out there, and hopefully getting back to playing live again at some point soon. So I like the idea of just staying focused on this guitar and just adding a cool element to it, but it may be overkill and it may not work the way a proper bender would. But I can at least try it out, get the flavor, and then if I love it, make the decision to move on and commit to the build or to buying one. And the only reason I wouldn't buy the Fender one is I wasn't loving the idea of the Nashville Telecaster, with the middle pickup and the modern saddles, but I could probably easily switch out the bridge, and then you can just get a black guard and cover over the pickup if it's not to your desire. But who knows, I might completely bond with the Nashville Telecaster idea and run with that. I just, aesthetically, I don't love it. I don't love the 90s Fender benders as far as the way they look. I would like it to look more like a classic Telecaster with the bender installed. So if anybody out there has had experience or just listening to this, instinctively knows what to do or what they would do, please, interact and let me know, because I'm really into it right now and I'm just trying to decide what to do. I think I'm going to go with that rolling bender idea just to scratch the itch, and I don't have to commit fully to buying all the guitar parts and, you know, getting my mind wrapped around the idea of a big project. And this could just be something cool to throw in. It's kind of like when I installed a Duesenberg trim to just play around with it just to see if I wanted a trim on a Les Paul style guitar. This could be the same kind of experience. So I'm thinking about trying that, but I'm hoping that somebody out there has had, you know, extensive B-bender experience and has tried a couple of these and has some feedback, because it's kind of hard to find information. There's very few threads about it. There are a few threads. The most I've found have been over at the Telecaster forum. So you'll see a few things about it, but it's not a super common thing. I would have thought it'd be a much more common thing to do. I've been hearing about it for years, and I never fully understood what it was. I knew it was what Clarence White was doing with the Byrds, but when you look into it, it's fascinating, and a lot of people are completely into it. But it's kind of niche, you know. There's not tons of information, and it's not, you know, really very commonplace. So that makes it even more fascinating for me, that it's just sort of an oddity, but it could really add a dimension to the sound, to the music, and to the functionality of the guitar. All right, so if anybody out there has anything, I really appreciate it, because when one of these things happens, I just, you know, mind just starts racing trying to figure out what to do. All right, next time.